Welcome to Brain Wellness, the podcast. I'm your host, Mandy NP. Each episode will bring you a new topic or interview related to brain health and wellness as part of my mission to help you on the path to a healthier, happier brain. So, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. My guest today is Jeremy Roadruck. Jeremy is the creator of the Roadmap to Relationship Mastery for Men and founder of the Unstoppable Masculine community. He's a husband, father, international champion, and sixth-degree Kung Fu master, multi-time best-selling author, hypnotherapist, neurostrategist, former soldier, former factory worker, and consultant. Thank you for your service, by the way. Author of the only parenting book with the money back guarantee, Jeremy is on a mission to help dads to master the 3 relationships that matter most in days or weeks instead of months or years. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Thank you, Mandy. I am really excited to be here. I freaking love your topic, and I love digging into all of this stuff because it's so freaking important.
Yeah.
And it drives so much of our lives, and so many people are at the effect instead of figuring out how to get to cause. And so I'm ready. Let's do this. This is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be an awesome show today. So first off, I always like to get people's background. So what brought you to where you are now? What got you to be the Jeremy today?
Well, my feet brought me to this room. But, basically, like big story short, when I was 5 and 6, I had some bad things happen that made me, I couldn't trust adults and I couldn't trust kids. And it was in 2 different continents. So at 6 years old, I began my existential crisis. Why are we here? What's our fate? What's our purpose? Why do people say one thing, they mean a second thing, they do a third thing, and none of that stuff necessarily connects, and I can't trust anybody, and I've got to have my back against the wall 24/7. And so, and then you add in, like, when I was 4, I got lost in the Turkish bazaar for an hour when we were in Turkey. I climbed on the roof of the house. I used to fall asleep standing up. So I was like this massive high energy kid with a low excitation threshold. I'm curious about everything all the time. And then you amp in abuse and the inability to trust people. And it was a messy way to grow up. And I realized very, very young, like, I brought this intensity to things. And, we're playing tic-tac-toe. I'm 7 years old. If I lose, part of me believes I'm going to die. That intensity is just like, whoa, you're a freak. And I realized, like, I have to play a role for my safety. And so I learned to become a very good chameleon and a very good mimic. And I began to just study the people around me to figure out, what do they say? What do they mean? What do they do? And I'm lucky that the abuse that I experienced happened as I was developing empathy. Like, the brain structures were developing, I was beginning to get socialized. So I had kind of a protective instinct, but I kind of had maybe a borderline personality at the same time. So it was a place to grow, and I wasn't like fully conscious of this stuff. And then I've got the stigmata and birthmarks. So if you're Catholic, the stigmata is basically what it's a somebody who so identifies with Christ, they actually develop porphyria and they start bleeding from wounds in their bodies that they created psychologically. Not they're damaged. Well, I have them in birthmarks on my wrists and my ankles and my belly. So at 9 years old, I've got all this stuff going on. And then there's I've got the stigmata. I'm the second coming of Christ. I'm going to destroy the world. Now even more guilt and more just instability. And I can't talk to anybody about any of this stuff. So I'm left to figure it all out. And that's kind of how I grew up. And I had amazing parents that really did their best to live their faith and be unconditional and loving and accountable and wonderful things. They really deserved a better son than who I was then. Um, but I had to figure this stuff out for myself. So I ended up doing like cross-cultural religious studies. I'm looking into just all different sorts of metaphysical systems, and this was before the internet. So I like had to go to the library or get an encyclopedia, and I had to like do a decimal system and like figure this stuff out. And I made some headway. And then at 20, I started martial arts, and that was like a duck to water. I joined a system that has a 1,500-year tradition. We're tied into Buddhist warrior monks and secret societies. And it's like this whole big, amazing thing, like straight out of a comic book, but it's all real life stuff that's super cool. But the big thing was, I was this intellectually dominant, defensive jerk. And what I mean by that, when I met Master Chongo, he was a purple sash back then. Like he went to shake my hand, and I said, "Oh, I don't shake hands." And he said, "Oh, okay. Why is that?" Well, shaking hands is a symbol between ancient warrior cultures that you're not carrying a weapon, but you're a martial artist. You've trained your whole body to be a weapon, and that makes you a liar. And I don't believe in lying. So I was going to force him to reject me on my terms now because I knew he was gonna, because I was already rejecting myself.
Wow.
Right. So I had this massive chip on my shoulder, scrawny white kid from the suburbs. But the cool part with the martial art people, with Grandmaster Ming and studying Shaolin Wing Chun, they didn't care. Like, you are where you are, big deal. And they could just beat the crap out of me. So don't care what your argument is. Get on the floor. Can you back that up? Can you walk your talk? And Chongo hated me for like 3 years. And he prayed that I would make it to sparring, which I did. And he beat the crap out of me. But then he discovered I wasn't the egocentric jerk that I presented as, because that was cool. How'd you do that? Do that again. And I was relentless, and I would come back and he would just beat the crap out of me and throw me and punch me and kick me and sweep me and knock me down and all these things. And I'm going, that's so cool. Do it again. And it wasn't fun because I wasn't like, learning a lesson. I actually didn't have the ego. And so that was kind of like where I put everything back together again, and the body and the mind and the emotions. And I remember early in my training, and I was there like every day for like 15 years. But I asked my teacher, I was like, do you ever get tired of me? And he was like, no, do you get tired of you? And inside my head, I was like, yeah, every day.
Mm.
And it was weird to have somebody else accept me when I didn't know how to accept myself. And that was part of how I started to unravel this interior stuff and realize, like, dude, you're being a jerk to yourself. Forget about everybody else. And that's how I began to like grow as a person. And then I did really cool working with the kids that were, difficult kids, because I didn't judge them. I just met them where they were. And you could be who you are. It's fine. And then I had my own school, and then I started seeing parents who love their kids but don't have the communication tools, and so they get into conflict with their kids, and then it's this judgmental thing, and now I have to punish you, and now I'm mad at me but I'm mad at you. And, well, could we just tweak that a little bit? And then that's where I began to write the best child ever. Is this game worth winning? Let's just play different games where we both get to feel good. Right? Pretty simple concept. And then it kind of just grew from there. And then I began to coach parents. Then I began to coach them as couples, and they had their own stuff to work through. And then I really gravitated towards men, because men are action takers. And when they can't figure their stuff out, when they arrive at I'm the problem, they remove themselves from the game called life, which then can put damage into their kids. And then the kids normalize that behavior, and then they're ending themselves as well. And it's like, dude, this is all a bunch of BS. It's belief systems that we don't need to play with this stuff. And that's sort of how I morphed over the last about 30 years.
That's a lot of unpacking you had to do over that
Yeah.
time.
And that was the short version of the story. Like, it's messier and bigger, but
I could imagine it would be. So my next question was going to be the BS thing, but
yeah.
you have such an interesting story to get back to that, and realizing that somebody else can accept you when you can't accept yourself. That's like opposite of what we tell people all the time. It's always love yourself first so that you can love other people, or so that other people can love you.
Mm-hmm.
How did that feel, that backwardsness about it?
Well, the interesting thing is, when you have a lived experience, it's not backwards to you. It just is. Right. It's like I tell people all the time, normal doesn't exist. What you grew up with was normal, but what does that mean? What's normal to the spider is madness to the fly. Like there's no one template of all human experience, and that's the thing. And if you don't do it in that exact sequence, you're damned and damaged. It's like, no, how you grew up. It's like people who grow up in a toxic situation with alcoholic parents. That's their normal. People who grow up with parents who are unconditional love and acceptance, that's their normal. So it wasn't that it was backwards or whatever. It was just, it's really strange that they could do something for me that I couldn't do for myself. And later, we have in the Kung Fu school, we talk about self-control, focus, respect, self-discipline, self-confidence. Well, with self-confidence, whenever there's a self and then a skill state, there could be something else. So we have self-confidence. I have the strength to believe in myself and my hopes, dreams, goals, abilities. But sometimes we need false confidence. Sometimes we need somebody else to believe in us. Sometimes we need that totem magic, right? I need the clothing, the car, the haircut, the shoes. sometimes we need a thing in order for us to be able to believe in ourselves, or we need somebody else to believe in us before we can believe in ourselves. And that's okay, because maybe that's a tool at a certain stage of life. Now, do you want to be 60 years old, 70, 80 years old, and you still need, well, I got to have the logo on my clothes, or I got to have this relationship or this type of person with me. Like, I always need something before I can just be myself and be confident. And so that was kind of the thing, is they could accept me because they had acceptance within them to give. I could accept them because they're not me, because I was massively egocentric, because little kids are egocentric. And a part of me was still arrested at that inner child that was still hurt. And so I had that inner 5-year-old running the show and making me wrong and punishing me. And I'm not, and so I got to sabotage something to deserve to feel bad about myself and feel bad about my life. I got to do something dumb to self-sabotage, of course. And it was unconscious. And that was kind of, you guys can accept me. You guys like me. I don't like me. How do you do that? And like, to work through the mental gymnastics. And I was working in a sandpaper factory back then. So I had a lot of time to think, running a machine that requires zero brain power. But it gave me a lot of time to pay attention to, well, if they could accept me, what are they seeing, hearing, feeling, thinking, believing about me that I'm not? What am I deleting? What are they seeing that I'm blind to? And that's really like, as I third partied myself, I could begin to see characteristics of how I showed up for other people, but I wouldn't show up for myself that way. I wouldn't give other people, I give other people patience because they're not as smart as me, but I should get it right away, and I should just know the answer, and I shouldn't have to think about this, and I shouldn't have to work hard. I should just, and so I had this massive, ridiculous expectation of myself that, of course, I failed to live up to. And of course I had to be punished. And of course nobody else knew. So of course I have to punish. And there's all these shoulds and assumptions. And I'm just in this little tiny box. Dude, take a deep breath. Right. And that's like the first step, shifting from fight or flight to rest and digest, is breathe. Literally create space in yourself. That slows the thinking, it slows the feeling. When somebody's getting overwhelmed, cool, take a deep breath. I'm with you. It's okay. Let's unravel this. And just being able to give that from the outside, it's like, oh, I could receive that. I could allow that to exist in this moment. Right. When I read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, part of your brain, this is the thing with Audible versus reading for yourself. When you're listening, it's passive, and your brain's kind of like, nah, 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 nah. When you're reading, that internal voice, your brain has to reorganize itself to form those constructs. Your brain starts to think the way the author was thinking when they wrote the book. So for that period of time, you are experiencing that other person's mindset. And so I would read the book and get mad at it. And then I'd be in the sandpaper factory arguing with the author, which reinforced his thinking system inside me. And I realized over time, I realized what I was doing. And I was like, oh crap, I got to read more of these, because I had never thought like Dale. And so reading his book made me start to think like him. Let me read Zig Ziglar. Let me read Tony Robbins. Let me read John Maxwell. Let me read Stephen Covey. And I started reading all of these different books on leadership and impact and all that. And it starts to, because it put those thoughts into my consciousness. I had never thought those thoughts that way. And you begin to do that. Like, if you don't have any good mentors, great. And you don't need them physically, go find them. And they left writings, go read their writings, and you can think like them for that period of time. Oh my gosh. And so that's how I started rewiring my brain to like be more positive, be more forgiving, be more accepting of me. It's the weirdest thing.
Right. I was thinking as you're going on, you're talking about the should in there, and somewhere along the line, I heard the thing about shoulding on yourself. So
Yeah.
when you do that all the time, you are shoulding on yourself, and you got to stop that part, because that's the really detrimental part to who you are as a person. When you're constantly having yourself, putting yourself on that pedestal and trying to keep yourself on that pedestal. If
Right.
something comes along and knocks you off, that just completely takes out your foundation.
100%. 100%. And for my nomenclature, should just means rules, not
Mhm.
reality. Right. So it's BS, belief systems, and that's life conditions. The land of should, or the land of is. And it is what it is, true, but then what could it mean opens up. And that's how we begin to play in that should and that reality, the rules and the reality. We begin to bounce back and forth and go, well, what if I put some parameters around what I'm doing and maybe I could guide the should?
Mhm.
And just saying, maybe I could put some guidelines, not that I have to put guidelines and you need to have discipline, soldier. Well, I mean, that's one way to do it too.
Yeah.
And some people respond to that, but not everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I listen for that should. If have you ever read What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter?
No, I've not heard of that one.
So he goes through and he lays out 5 levels of self-talk. And I actually deduced his book at the Sandpaper Factory 10 years before I read it. And then when I read it, I was like, oh, that would have saved time. But he basically lays out 5 levels of self-talk. Level 1 is negative acceptance. I can't. And if you tell yourself you can't, you're right.
Mhm.
Right. Level 2 is the recognition of need to change, which is I should. But the unconscious completion of I should is ... but I don't, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And so you're still kind of attached into that the inability. Level 3 is the decision to change. I no longer. And it sounds good. I never oversleep. I never overeat. I never smoke. And it sounds great until you say that 10,000 times a day. And you're being negative 10,000 times a day. And you're obsessing about what you don't want 10,000 times a day. Adults tell the kids don't run. And what do you get? Some kid like me starts sprinting. I said don't run. I'm not running. I'm sprinting. Because I'm right. Or I'll do cartwheels. Because don't run, there's lots of behaviors that equal don't run. Level 4, the level of the better you, I am. I wake up excited and ready to start my day. All of my habits increase my health. Say that 10,000 times a day. And what kind of life are you going to have? I never overeat. I never oversleep. I never smoke. 2 massively different ways to be. So parents, instead of don't run, walk. Walk safely, walk slowly, walk with self-control, walk with thought, walk with conscientiousness, walk with presence, walk with playfulness, walk with. But if you ask for what you actually want, you're more likely to get it, which is that level 4, the level of the better you. I am. So everyone, please walk. Everyone, please show me self-control. Instead of stop moving, stop playing with that, stop touching this. Because how many stops and don'ts can you give someone that if you give them enough negatives, they'll arrive at a positive? It's not going to happen.
And
One
then you start to
positive is
ignore
more
it.
powerful than all the negatives. Yeah,
You get all those negatives and you start to ignore it. And it starts to mean nothing anymore when you hear stop so many times.
exactly right. Exactly right.
So I was watching some of your videos and I love them, by the way.
Thank you.
I think this is one of the first times I've actually done homework on somebody before you come on the show. But I loved just the excitement and the way that you word things. And you have this term called BS that you've mentioned a couple of times now. And I love the idea. For those that haven't watched your videos before, can you explain what this BS idea is?
So BS, it's all BS, right? It's all belief systems, right? So in Chinese martial arts, we use this bow, and it's representative of two things. This is the dragon, and this is the tiger. So the hand, right hand, dragon, left hand tiger, Zhou Qing Long Yao Ba Fu. In Cantonese, but the right hand forming the dragon, this represents the invisible world. It represents the belief systems, the wisdom. We use the idea of a dragon because you don't see a dragon, but you see the effect of the dragon. You see the dragon moving through the grass or through the water or through the trees, call it the wind, right? You don't see someone's mind physically, you don't see their mind, but you see the mind in motion through their actions. So the idea of the palm is the invisible world. And in my nomenclature, it's the story, right? It's the justification, it's the rationalization, it's the BS, it's the belief system. So you have some story you're telling. And then we go to the fist. The fist is the visible world. It's action, it's the body, it's the tiger. It's the thing that does the impact. So this is the game that we play. This is our behavior. Your story, your BS will always drive your behavior. Human beings are reasonable. Literally everything we do, there is a reason, even if the reason is the dog told me to, son of Sam. It's a crazy ass reason. It's bullshit reason, but it's a reason for that course of action. So we have the invisible, the story drives the behavior, and then the behavior drives your impact. And so then impact is feedback. Because you did a thing, you played a game, you got a result. Did you like it? Did it help you? Did it help other people? Did it expand the world around you or contract it or constrict it? because then you can take that feedback and plug it back into the story, right? And this is part of my life as a Kung Fu master. I'm going to teach you how to defend yourself. It takes a while because we're installing physical skills. That takes work, that takes time, it takes effort, it takes repetition. We're building networks in the brain, we're building stimulus response, all these different things. But story, BS, is identity. We can remove an entire cluster of behaviors because those behaviors are incongruent with the higher identity or the higher story that you're telling of who you are or what your standards are. And that's just not who I am. That's not the type of person I am. I, I used to be like that, but then I understood, and now I raised my standards. So it's like when you listen to people's stories, it tells you their potential, it tells you their limitations, and a lot of people will argue for the pain and misery that they're in because it's that game of don't run. Well, what do you actually want? Well, I don't believe I deserve to have it, so I know what I don't want. Okay, but what do you want? Well, I don't know that I can have that. Somebody like me, and it's like, oh, I don't know who somebody like you is. I only know you. And you are the only you that's ever existed from the dawn of time to the end of creation. You're the only you. No pressure, but you're the only you. So don't tell me about people like me because there's no such thing. There's only you. Now, tell me about you and what you want. And that's where I start like pulling apart strategy, because that belief system, people will hang their hat on why, and then they get stuck. The way to get out of that is, what do you want and how do you get there? Because that gets us strategy, that gets us ladder. How do you know that's true?
Mhm.
What makes you believe that? And when we sit there and hammer on what's and how's, we can get the mechanics of the strategy, then we can change the strategy.
Mhm.
We can expand the strategy. We can constrict the strategy. We can manipulate it in some way to make it more sustainable to take you the direction you want to go.
Mhm.
Right? Well, someone like me can't have that. Well, what leads you to believe that's true?
Mhm.
Not why do you believe that's true? Because now we're spinning in justification.
Yeah.
What leads you to believe that's true? What specifically? Because now we can deconstruct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking at it a different way. So they don't say someone like me. What if they say, I've always been like this, so this is just who I am?
Okay. Cool. 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 So when you're driving in your car, just help me understand. When you drive in the car, where are you looking when you're driving?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, straight ahead.
Yeah. You're looking in the direction you're going,
Yeah.
right? Cool. Fantastic. So you know who you have been, you know what you've done to get you where you are
Mhm.
now, but is that getting you where you want to go? Because if you keep looking in the past, where you're going to end up, it's not going to be the future that you would prefer. It's going to be the past you already know you don't like. True?
Mhm.
So if we want to get somewhere different, that's fine. The past brings us to today. It's what we do today that determines our future. Today, maybe not a warrior, but if we train, tomorrow maybe a warrior. Today, maybe not business person. Fantastic. But if we take action today, we start to plant seeds, we'll harvest that next week, next month, next year. That's how we change. The past brings you to now. What you do now is what takes you to the future, right? It's the same thing in fighting. If you get hit, is it because you did something wrong or because they did something right? Because you can't control what they do right, but you can control your openings. And if I get hit, it's because there was a gap in my defense. There was a gap in my position. There's something that I could adjust. Thank you for the feedback. I'm still alive. I'm still in the game. I can make adjustments. And I don't even like the word like correction. I like adjustment because when I correct someone, it presupposes they're wrong.
Mhm.
I don't know that you're wrong. I know that what you're doing is giving you a result you've said you don't like, but you keep doing it. So some part of you believes it's not already. But let me ask you this. If there was a way we could make it slightly easier and you could get there faster to a different result that you actually wanted, would it be okay to play that game a little bit more?
Yeah.
Cool. And now I'm getting permission, I'm getting consent to then offer adjustments because there's still consent. They have to choose to play the game, right? It's not my job to live your life and live your consequences. It's my job to live my life and face my consequences, good, bad, or sideways. And I'm here to help you do the same. That's why I put in your best child ever is like the idea of a success coach. Everybody is everybody else's success coach if you allow it, because
Yeah.
sometimes people will show you exactly what not to do because the success that they're achieving would be a train wreck in your life. Fantastic. So let's make different choices. Thank you. And I can appreciate where they're at even if I don't join them in that journey,
Mhm.
because I see how it runs into a brick wall multiple times. But now it's like, oh, so I can play a little bit different game. I can get to a little bit different place. So the idea of success coach, there's first line, they live with you. And then there's second line, they don't live with you. And everybody's there to teach you about success, just at different standards.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to follow?
Yeah. Yeah. So I also want to ask you about this unstoppable masculine.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Well, somebody else had the idea of unstoppable man, so I couldn't use it. And I
Okay.
identify as a man, so like there we go. So I went with this idea of unstoppable simply because like I have a 5-step framework that I teach, and it's all about how to just become unstoppable. Because like you're still alive. Okay, cool. Because if we're having a conversation and you're not alive, I've got maybe some problems. But you're alive. We're having this conversation. Okay, fantastic. And what you've done so far hasn't gotten you your result. Okay, cool. Good to know where we are. So what would you like as a result? Because if you're rigid in the result and you're flexible in the approach, you'll get there. Because my whole shtick is, do you want to be right or do you want to get results? If you want to be right, keep doing what you're doing, and it's taking you where it's taking you. But if you want to get this result, then we got to make some changes. I don't know what to change. Let's start playing and let's start iterating and let's figure this out. And then the idea of being unstoppable is the big fancy name is the principle of requisite variety. It's just the more flexible you are to get to your goal, the easier it is to get to your goal. And so the idea of being unstoppable is, you know, the thing that your heart, mind, and soul is committed to achieving. Awesome. Let's just get the resistance out of the way to get there so that you're compelled to go there, pulled there like a natural, just the plant rising towards the sun. And so then everything else just becomes feedback. If this is getting you towards your goal, you'll get more momentum to get there and things will become more effortless. There'll be less resistance, right? It's like when you're fighting, if you have the perfect angle, there's no resistance. It's effortless. And you pull the technique off and you're like surprised. It happens all by itself. You didn't even need to do it. It just, the universe made it conspire and it's like, do that. And it's because I was in the right alignment with time and space. Do the right thing in the right time in the right place with the right energy, you win. The problem is our ego, our fears, our doubts, taking our eye off our goal, taking it personally when we get feedback that we didn't anticipate or appreciate. But like my wife's mad at me about something. Babe, thank you. What? Thank you for telling me where you are and telling me what matters. If I appreciate the feedback that she's giving me and her willingness to speak up, it gets easier for her to do it sooner. Right. So this idea unstoppable masculine, like when we talk about men's mental health, we talk about men's growth. I hear a lot about, men need to be vulnerable. And I'm like, no. Because for a lot of men or a lot of masculine identifying people, if we want to be more inclusive, a protector and a provider, like I feel it in me. I'm a protector, I'm a provider. Like I know it, like I know I have hands and I know they're reversible. And so then you tell a protector and a provider that you need to be vulnerable. Fuck you, no, that's never happening. Like, no, that's not a position of power for a protector or provider. It's a position of victim. I'm going to be attacked. I'm going to be manipulated. I'm going to be dominated or destroyed. You will never get the best out of a protector or provider by telling them to be vulnerable. But we have a problem because there's stuff inside we got to get out. And so then for masculine, it's about being raw and real and open and honest. And if they haven't been able to do that with anybody, there's usually a lot of rage and anger that's been suppressed or held back, a lot of injustice, a lot of I'm trying my best and I'm not getting my result. Mm-hmm. And so you have to deal with the back pressure, and that's the raw and real. But the goal is to get to this place of being open and honest. Because if I make it okay for my wife to be raw and real with me, guess what? It's easier for her to be open and honest when I don't meet her needs, or when something happened that she's unhappy about, or she's depleted about, or she's exhausted about. I become a safe space for her to just be authentically who she is, which brings the best out of her. And then allows me to bring out the best of me, not to necessarily solve her problem, but to be with her in this journey, in this experience. And like, how do we blend and how do we create and get where we want to go? And so this idea of raw, real, open, honest, I was talking with a guy earlier today and he's like, yeah, me and my girlfriend, we get into it and it gets ugly. I'm like, awesome. That's great. Well, no, you don't understand because she says a lot of mean stuff. And I'm like, cool. No, you should appreciate that. But she gets right hurtful. Well, I understand that. But let me ask you this. Would you rather she says nothing to you and tells you everything is fine and then passively aggressively sabotages you and the marriage and the parenting for the next 6 months? Or would you rather just have the words and get it out right now? Well, damn, I didn't think of it like that. That's why you say thank you to her, because then you make it safe for her to be in that emotional state and still speak truth to you. And you go, I don't want to hear this, but I appreciate you telling me because I need to hear this. Thank you. You're amazing.
Yeah.
And if you can do that in a high conflict conversation with somebody that you love, now we can be open and honest easier, and we don't have to be so raw and real. We don't have to get so spiky. We can speak. We have more agency quicker and sooner and faster in the dyad, if we want to throw out nerd stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like that's the game. To me, it's just a game we're playing. And it's like, look, like my wife and I got into this fight, like the last real big fight that we had. And I didn't even know what we were fighting about. And I remember where I was in the house. I remember which house we were in because it was several years ago. And I was like, I don't even know what we're fighting about. I just want to love you. And I disarmed myself in front of her. And because I did that, because of who she is in her soul, she immediately disarmed herself. And her little girl came out to my little boy, and we had a really good conversation. And we've never been in that place of friction with each other ever since, because like, I'm not going to fight with you. I just want to love you.
Mm-hmm.
And to give that power for people who have a wounded inner child, that's like terrifying. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but I lived 20 years in the anger and the back against the wall. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, raw, real, open, honest, like that's one of the things I want to contribute to this whole conversation about, mental health, mental illness, mental process, like masculine, feminine polarity, all that. Raw, real, open, honest, you will get the best out of everybody: men, women, children, elders, business partners. Make it okay for them to be where they are and what they feel, and comma dot dot dot. Open the frame, and then we can expand where we go next. And it's such a powerful conversation, and it's a power that you give, not that you have to take. Because, you know, Stephen Covey, seek to understand before being understood. If I make sure that I understand you, a lot of problems go away in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what that meant to you. Thank you. I missed that. I appreciate you telling me, because now I'm moving into what I call ownership, and then the ability to respond, aka responsibility. Right. And that's part of the 5-step framework, because it's like, you are where you are and you're allowed to be. Doesn't mean whether I agree with it or not, completely beside the point. You are where you are. Thank you for the feedback. And we're both alive. We'll figure this out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of those mental difficulties come from a background of anger, trauma,
Yeah.
something else that leads to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know masculine, feminine, women, men and women, whatever you want to look at it, there's a difference on the masculine versus feminine response to that.
Yeah.
My response with trauma is very different than my husband's response with trauma.
Right.
And we've had a lot of really good conversations about this because we've been able to become open with each other. It did
Mm-hmm.
not start that way. It takes time to build. You have to build that trust to be able to feel okay with that. But I know I opened up a whole lot faster than my husband did.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that idea of that masculine with the history of the trauma, especially, does that make it any different with trying to get to that open, honest part?
Oh yeah, 100%. So like, even languaging, trauma, that word is becoming triggering for some people because projection, association, mind reading, jumping to conclusions, blah blah blah. So I tend to focus on significant emotional events or moments of impact or situations, simply because I want to disarm the language to get to what's really going on. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not want to talk about this. It's fine. You don't have to. I don't need you to. What I can tell you is, as you take control of your story, things get a lot easier for you. But what I'm doing is, in that language, I am establishing frames of reference and intelligent disassociation, because like the story that men don't feel is so much crap. A lot of men feel very deeply and they don't know how to language it. And for masculine, right, we'll call it triangle, single point frame, single point of focus, left brain. Like there's all these different labels for it. But for a masculine person, a answer is not okay. It needs to be the right answer. And this is hard for feminine because feminine is like, just say something so we can move on with the conversation. I don't really care what the answer is. Just say something so we can just keep going. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever you say is fine. I know you're feeling some kind of way. It's fine. Just say whatever. And masculine is like, no, it has to be the answer. Because if we're in combat, if we're building a bridge, we're building a tower, it has to be the right placement. It can't just be, kind of throw those bricks up. It's fine. If it falls over, we'll rebuild it. People will die, but that's okay. And so because of that protector provider mindset, I have to have the right answer. And so for masculine, like, you're going to ask me a question, then I got to go to the well and I got to go down and I got to like get the answer, which takes time. And then I'm going to bring it back up. But then if someone's like taking too long, so then they start throwing multiple choice at me. Now I got to take all those potential answers and weigh them against my answer. It just, it delays the whole process because I want to have the right answer. And so what masculine people will do is they will retreat into the cave. I will go away. I will go on a quest and I will get you the answer because it matters. And this is important and it has to be true and it has to be thought out and it has to be measured and it has to have, resources behind it and references behind it and cross-indexed and, the trusted and tried and true wisdom of the. And so because of all of that energy, that takes time. And then feminine's going, but why are you abandoning me? I just asked you about, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? Like, do you want steak or do you want sushi? And it's like, this is why it's a big damn deal. And he's like, no, it has to be the right answer. So we have this amazing dinner. And you're abandoning me. And now she's pursuing when he's trying to go away to get the answer and she's pursuing. Now we amp some sort of unresolved impact from childhood, especially some sort of fault, blame, guilt, shame that he hasn't worked through. He can't even give language to his experience. And then you're asking him to give you the right answer. Not going to happen. And that's why the raw and real component, because like, dude, just get something out, yell and scream if you have to, punch a wall. It's fine. But we got to get this stuff out because until it's conscious, it will control you and it will dominate you. And ultimately it will destroy you. So you don't have to be elegant. I've been running my mouth since I was 6 years old. My nickname as a kid was Motor Mouth. I have no problem with words. I used to read a thesaurus every night when I went to bed because I love words, right?
Good thing.
I'm a freak. It's fine. I know that. I'm okay with it. Leverage me. That's why I coach men so much, is because these guys have this thing and they don't know how to get, how do I give language to this thing I'm not even fully consciously aware of?
Yeah.
And for feminine, it's much more, everything is like connected and everything is tied together and this goes to that. And there's like this intuitive sense of how it all goes, and trust the process and just let it go and relax into it and just say what you got. And then the feeling will take and it'll flow and it'll go and it'll glide. And it's like, that's amazing to witness. But for guys in that masculine frame, it's like, I don't know how you did that. Like, that's magic. Literally, it's magic. And so that's part of the challenge for guys, is like, where do I go to get this stuff out? And again, that's why I have this masculine community, because it's like, it's okay to be left brained. It's okay to be locked in on this stuff. It's not you're a less than.
Yeah.
Right. But we need to find ways to get access to this stuff. And for guys, like, masculine has to be taught by other men.
Yeah.
Not boys. Like, a lot of the toxic stuff is immature masculine. It's wounded boys overcompensating, or it's people living in fear and their instinctive self-preservation kicks in. Like, they're not kings. Kings are about the kingdom. But you get a guy trying to be about the kingdom when he's still a wounded boy. You end up with a people pleaser who's constantly trying to be good enough to earn love. And if I just do it the right way, then she'll want to be with me and it'll be okay. And then I'll be happy and I'll be safe and it'll be wonderful. And he's doing all the things that the king should do, but that's okay, because I need approval, because I need her to be okay with it, because I just want her to tell me I did a good job, because I just want to get my sticker. I want to get my gold star. I want to be a good boy. That wounded boyness distorts the he's not present. And he's not fully showing up. He's doing it in a servile way. He's not a servant leader. He's servile, which is like a different level of power. And for feminine, she can't feel safe with that, because she has to go into her masculine to create a container, because he's so unstable and he's so in need of reinforcement. He is a child. He's a wounded child in that part of himself. She can't relax into that and trust guidance, or trust his leadership, or trust his ability to protect or provide, even if he's highly skilled, even if he's making a lot of money. Because energetically, there's a level of, I can't trust you. If everything goes to hell, you're going to lose your head and panic and abandon me. Like, I feel it. And that feeling, she can't shut it off. She can't compartmentalize it or push it away. It just keeps coming back wave after wave after wave. And the guy's going, but I'm doing all the right things. And it's like, yeah, superficially, but push comes to shove, you're insignificant inside. You're running the same pattern I did. You're making people reject you on your terms because you don't know how to accept yourself. You don't know who you are, where you stand. You don't even trust yourself, that you're constantly looking for her to give you validation, right? If you need it, that's a problem. If you want it, that's different. That's
Yeah.
desire. That's okay. Like, I
It's a
don't
love
need
language.
approval. I want her approval. Different animal.
Yeah.
But when I need her approval, I'm dangerous because I'm wounded now. And that can get messy fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That calm part is really important. I always say with my husband, he's the calm to my crazy. So when I go nuts, I need that calm that he has, because that it grounds me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And conversely, if he's in this highly charged feeling state and he's like, he's untethered, can you step into that masculine frame for that moment and bring him back to himself? And then you guys switch back polarities. Like, that's a balanced relationship between two healthy people. Right. And but no, you must always be this thing, or you must always be that. It's like, nah, that's unbalanced. Like that leads to dysfunction. It's a washing machine with all the stuff on one side on a spin cycle. It's this demon
And it's
possessed.
making all sorts of noise and shaking the dang house.
Yeah. Had that happen at 9, scared the crap out of me. I thought I was gonna explode. I was terrified. I was the only one home, and it was like,
That is scary when that happens. Oh my God. That's like a little T trauma right there in itself. So, oh my gosh, I think we could go on and on all day long. What's like one thing that you could recommend people to start? I mean, I would say start watching your videos, because so many of the snippets that we've had today, just in this conversation, I heard in some of those videos, and it's so good. I sent it to my 15-year-old son, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to interview this guy. Watch this, because it was really cool stuff you got there. So that'd be my tip for people. But what's one thing that you can maybe tell our listeners just to start now to get themselves in a better framework?
The two things. Number one is listen to your dialogue, external or internal, because not everybody has an internal dialogue, but listen to the things you say, because what you say becomes true. I can't, I won't, I should. Those are all potentialities. Where do you want your gravity? Use your words to speak more of the things you want. And I'll give you a quick example. Um, People that struggle with social anxiety. Cool. Add a phrase to practice as a mantra. It's an affirmation, but I enjoy myself in the presence of other people. If you say that 10,000 times a day, if you begin to believe that, if you begin to actually enjoy yourself when you're around other people, they start to enjoy you too, because you're more relaxed with yourself. And it's a gift, like it's a power you have to give yourself, of just, I enjoy myself in the presence of other people. What if that was true? What if I could enjoy and all of a sudden, when you start enjoying yourself, you become more enjoyable because you're enjoying yourself. People like hanging out with you because you're more accepting and you're safe. Right. So pay attention to that dialogue, because very much the words create the reality. The other thing is, start trading expectations for appreciation. Right. Start focusing on, like, my wife did the dishes. Hey, babe, thanks. I did the dishes. She says thanks. I cook, she says thanks. She cooks, I say thanks. Like finding ways to celebrate what people are doing right, what you are doing right. Because even if you do a good thing and no one's there to see it, you were there to see it and you count. So you pat yourself on the back and say, yay, me, good job, gold star. When you start to focus on the things you do right, yeah, 85 things you could have done better today. But you did 4 things freaking amazing, 2 things, 1 thing freaking amazing. Cool. Give yourself credit, give yourself respect, give yourself gratitude, because you took a stand for something a little bit better in the world around you. That's the power that we can build. Literally, think about, the biggest pile of sand in the world starts with 1 grain. The biggest forest was a couple of nuts that held their ground, and then just give it time. And so if you put these little ideas in, take little tiny actions, 1 level of effort, 365 days a year, you get 1 result. 1.01%, 365 days, you get 37 times the result, because of compound interest. So that's the place to play. And that's a power you can give yourself, and nobody can take it away from you. Nobody else can decide what you're going to be grateful for except you, because nobody else has your voice and your ability to tell your story. Right. I finished with just a little snippet of something. Tony Robbins, famous guy, does a lot in personal development. He was at an event called Experts Academy, put on by a guy named Brandon Burchard. Really smart guy, brought a lot of influencers together, a lot of like top mental, emotional people together. So Tony Robbins is at his event for free. Normally it's $1 million to get Tony to show up anywhere for anything. But he's there and he's speaking. And he says to the audience at Experts Academy, he says, don't be an expert. I can speed read. I've got, this big marketing team behind me. I can go read in 1 month. I could read the top 30 books in your specialty, and I can out expert you. So don't be an expert at Experts Academy. Instead, be an authority. Nobody has your story but you. Nobody has your lived experience but you. Nobody gets to speak your truth but you. You are the only authority on your experience as a human being. And if you can live in that place and realize we're all human becomings, we're all works in progress. From the dawn of time to the end of creation, there will never be another example of a human being exactly like you. So you go be the best you, and I'll be the best me, and everybody wins. That's the ultimate game to go play in life and love and business.
I love the idea of human becomings. That's a good one.
That's Augmandino.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um, so wrapping up, I know you coach people. What do you have any programs, any projects you want to share with our listeners to kind of promote yourself for a minute here?
I have so much stuff. All right. So first, Your Best Child Ever, Is This Game Worth Winning? The only parenting book with a money back guarantee. It says so right there on the back. And I put a lot of my fundamental frameworks, like how do you create a win-win game? There's a box. All human experience you can put into a box. So this is a really great book. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on it's Kindle and paperback and Audible. You can get a signed copy from me as well on my website. So that's like a great place to get started. And the Audible is like 5.5 hours of me in your head. If that's a good thing, go for it. I live inside this head, so it's my normal. And then I've got courses on communication. I've got courses on getting your kids to listen, how to create more intimacy. The thing I'm really excited about in the year that we're recording this is 2024. In September, I am hosting an in-person event here in Florida for 10 business owner dads. It's 2.5 days. No, it's 2 days total, but it's a Friday to Sunday. And we're going to be delving into communication, mindset, how to anchor in peak performance, and how to live at like your best level. And literally, we're going to just wire it into your nervous system like a superpower. You can just flip a switch and no warm up, no prep, and you're, let's do this. So we're literally going to anchor that in on Sunday, and it's all in an Airbnb. Everything's all inclusive. We're going to cook food together. We're going to have really deep conversations about really cool stuff. I'm super jazzed, but I've only got 10 spots. And when they're filled, they're filled. And then we'll look at next year doing some stuff. So that's the thing I'm really excited about. And I'll make sure you have the link for the page to go apply, because I do want to talk to everybody before they sign up. It's not just plunk some money down and you're good to go. It's I want to know who you are, what you're looking for, to make sure this really serves you. Because I have a lot of friends that do events. I may have somebody to send you to instead. So, you know what? I think so and so would be a great connection. You should talk to them. Because I really want to work with just the right people. And so that's the thing I'm most excited about. And then I've got the Unstoppable Masculine Community and that 7-day free trial. That's for guys, people that identify as men or masculine. Come check us out, come play. And we're really working on mastering 3 relationships: the past, the present, and the future. The past is your childhood. Anybody who is operating in fault, blame, guilt, shame, or creating unwinnable games, that is a childhood wound that is unresolved. And I will fight anybody on the planet about that. Because once you get that inner child resolved, you've got safety. Then we can talk about how to master being a man, which is your relationship to your present. And it's your health and fitness, and it's your current marriage or dating life. And then we can go to leading like a king. And that's your relationship to the future. And that is your legacy through your kids or through your career. And so if the boy, the man, and the king are all activated and healthy and playing together, you literally will become an unstoppable force, and people feel safe around you. And it's the most rewarding thing to see and hear guys learning these tools. And my favorite thing is when they use it back at me and call me on my own stuff that I didn't realize. I'm like, you son of a, you're right. Damn it. Somebody taught you good.
You
It's the
taught them
funnest
too
thing.
well at that point. Yeah.
It's the funnest thing. It really is. Because You use my power against me, my kung fu. It's fine. That's what we're
That's
here
funny. That's funny.
for. Yeah.
Where can people find you to get more information about all this stuff?
I am the only Jeremy Roadruck on the internet, so really easy to find. There is short form content on TikTok at Jeremy Roadruck. There is long form content on YouTube at Jeremy Roadruck. And then if you go on Facebook, Jeremy R. The Kung Fu Guy, that's my personal page. It's where I'm the most active. I have some stuff on Insta, not really doing X, the site formerly known as something else that it used to identify as. And I'm also on LinkedIn. And yeah, I work with people one-on-one, small group. I'm building the community because 10 divorced dads a day end their lives. And for a lot of guys, once they get into a marriage, they identify themselves as husband and father. When those things are taken away, they lose their sense of self. And if I'm the problem, I'm going to solve the problem. I'm going to remove myself from the game of life. And then that puts more problems because then the kids go, well, dad didn't care. Dad couldn't handle it. Why should I? How should I? How could I? And the risk is that they then take a permanent exit or they end up numbing themselves through very destructive patterns of behavior. Men are needed. Men deserve to be respected and admired. And men need to understand themselves. And that's really where I planted my flag. And that's like the thing that is the hill I'm going to die on is really helping men to just accept themselves and be not be manly men, but be present and be playful. And then we can talk about being powerful.
Yeah.
Because that creates safety for the people we love. That creates safety for the kingdom.
Yeah.
If we put power first, I don't know if you're safe. I don't know if you're trustworthy. And so it's a different way of organizing.
Yeah. I love that. I love your mission. Thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you.
I thank you for the men in my family for doing what you do. So great having you on today. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thank you. It's the coolest thing. And I'm really excited to be in this place because it took a while to get here. And now I can help other people get their stuff faster.
Yeah. You sound so grounded from given everything that you went through. It's like, man, to hear how confident and grounded you are and to be able to share that information to other people, that's a life skill right there that I'm glad that you are coaching other people and helping other people because it's so needed. So needed.
Well, because of the story and the game framework, this is a skill that could be reproduced. It's not something magical or inborn in me because there's a whole bunch of stuff that I had to learn and grow out of over time. And that's the thing for me. Kung Fu means skill and ability developed through hard work over time. Anything human beings can get better at is a type of Kung Fu, which is damn near everything we do. Even breathing and pooping, we can improve.
Yeah.
So in that mindset, everything is a skill. Cool. Let's be intentional. Let's cultivate. Let's play. Yeah. Life is a death sentence. We're all worm food waiting to happen. So get over that now. And everything else gets easier because everything else is bonus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate
there we go. Get my little Kung Fu.
Yeah, that was beautiful. So, beautiful.
All right. All right. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. And keep smiling, y'all.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this with others to help me continue on with my mission to help people live healthier, happier lives. Go to www.brainwellnesssolutions.com to see what I'm up to and get links to all the social medias there. See you next time.